Peter.
Yeah.
The whole
How about now?
Can you hear us now?
Are we back?
Got thumbs up from Willie.
All right, we're back.
All right. Yeah. So from a standpoint, some people know who I am. So what I want to do here is just, I've only been a ham coming up on 2 years. And how I got into this hobby was through my nephew doing POTA every day when I was on vacation. Even though had never signed up yet, it got me hooked into it. And as you can see, I've continued on to this point. Okay. Well, we thought it was connected. The best laid plans. Just hit next slide. Sorry. Sorry about that. All right. Once again, told you a little bit about my history here. I also am part of the Wayne County ASPRC. Oh, it's working now? Yeah. And as you can see, I've been almost 50 years in IT. I started in the hardware, and a lot of us here too, before the internet. So when everything was all hardwired to every single household. So everything you did was 100% over a physical wire. You made calls, everything you did other than over the airwaves for, standard radio or TV. But that's, from there I moved hardware into software. So jumping into amateur radio was a very simple thing for me to do from a standpoint of being able to kick off and start doing things. So a lot of people, I'm not going to do a huge thing on POTA. I'm just going to give you real high level from a standpoint of, what you can do with it. As you see here, the idea is that you can do whatever you want, and what I'm showing you here today is just one of the ways that I do it. And I do it a lot of different ways. And part of it is a learning experience, because every time I go out, if you go to a new park, it's always going to be different. Or, I'll talk about some of my setups here and some of the challenges and things that have happened while I do it. And I've also brought in a bunch of the stuff that I do that we can show. I can talk to it after the people want to, show you some of the components and things that I use, that I go out when I do a park. I try to make it very unique. Now, some of the things you'll see that, Parks on the Air does offer when you sign up is that you can get awards. Now, the awards, I'll talk a little bit more about those. That isn't the focus I'm on. I mean, I've got some people that, they're my nephew who got me into this. He's really into all the awards. He's got all 50 states that he's hunted. Now we'll talk about hunters and activators in a minute. And I don't know about you, but I don't know if I'm going to get to all 50 states to do an activation to get that particular award to say I've done all 50 states. And you can get the 51st state, which is Washington, D.C., because there are, we all know, parks in D.C. that you could actually go to. And if the other point is if you're in an area that you really can't do, a very noisy area that you're an HOA that you really can't do an antenna, then the idea is that you're going to want to take and go to a park. Now, I'm what you not call a fair weather activator. I go out no matter what the conditions. So every Sunday I will go, if I'm here in locally to Michigan. If I'm not at my daughter's house in Kalamazoo, I will go to Mayberry. You'll find me there at Mayberry by the Hickory Pavilion every Sunday morning at 7:30. And I see the same people that come to, other people that show up that come to the park to walk their dogs and all that good stuff. Now, when I'm out in Kalamazoo, there's a couple of parks there. There's one that's more of a nature center. It's very muddy and it's not a real good place, and there's hunters. So I don't usually go to that one very often. I try it because if I see one in there, I'm not going to pull in. But I go to the Cal Haven. So it's another really cool little park to go visit from a standpoint that, and I didn't know this, but that particular park I pulled in when it was snowing out, a bunch of trucks pull in with snowmobiles and unloaded all the snowmobiles. I had no idea that you could actually come in and start snowmobiling from this area. It was kind of interesting to learn. So there's a lot of things you can do. Now, part of it too is my wife and me both do bird watching and walking, but from a standpoint, I can go to a park and do my thing, which is, doing the radio. She can go out and go do bird watching because it can take an hour or two to go walking through any of the parks that you go to within the area here. I keep hitting the wrong arrow button. So as I talked about before, a little bit about this is, like I say, I give you my favorite park where I'm always at, you know, the Hickory one there. But the idea is that when you go to a park, and I'll talk a little bit more from that, is that when you're in there, you have to follow whatever the rules are. And we were talking about this before the meeting started, that since I travel, when I go to parks, every state's different. So when I start showing you what I bring with me, it's going to be different because in a lot of states, I can't put things in the ground. So a lot of, there's so many different types of antennas you need. Sometimes you want to put a stake in the ground and put it up, like the Wolf River Coil, give an example. Or if I need to throw something in a tree, in Michigan, you're not supposed to throw lines in a tree, but that depends on the ranger. You can, if a ranger comes by, you can ask, can I use the tree? And if he says yes, get his name, then use the tree. Otherwise, if he says no, don't throw it in the tree anyway. He'll come back. They'll give you good warnings. But like you said, you're not limited to just state parks. There's also the game areas that I talked about, and you'll find that there's a lot of game areas, but just so you know, they're all really, really primitive. And I forgot to take a picture of my truck when I went into one of the game areas here, just east of Milan. Dirt road, my truck was complete mud by the time I got out of it, because it was in there, and all the hunters showed up too. So they were all interested in what I was doing, but it turns out there was a guy that goes there every single day. If you go to this particular park, you'll see he's there every day broadcasting, and he's got to come through the mud every day. So he must have a really nice dirty truck. All right, so what I want to do is take you through the different terminology. So here this is last year when I went to Hamvation. I stayed at a hotel north of the city in, I'll think of it here, Troy, and there's a park west of there. So I went to this park that night, the night before I went, did a quick activation. So I just give you an idea that, so I'm being what's called an activator. So what that means is I set up, and in my case, you can't see it, but this little antenna you see in the table here is sitting on top of that grill. That's what I was using for my stand to get a little bit more elevation for my antenna. And then I ran the wires over to the picnic table in order to get this to do my activation. And I do, in my case, when I do activations, I do digital at this point when I'm doing some POTUS. Now in that case, it's usually when I'm doing 5 watts. So I like to do real low, QRP is what they call. So in that case, I'm always with a compromised antenna, so I don't have a real good way of making sure I'm going to get out. Now I do have a 7300 that I bring when I'm going to do, and I also have an FT81, so I can get the 100 watts, and I have the right antenna system so that then I can move to voice and do it from that particular standpoint. But in this case, when I'm an activator, that means I'm the one that has to register you. So anything that you call me back, I have to make note of it, and then I'm the one that logs it. Now, the only catch on this with people that are new to POTUS is that when this happens, I may log you, but if you want to be logged in the system and do Logbook of the World or any QRZ or any other place, you have to make sure that you make note of that data and store it yourself, because I'm only capturing that you did to the parks on the air. If you want to capture it to go to Logbook of the World, it's on you to take care of that side of the information. That was an equation. So the first few months when I was doing POTA, my nephew failed to mention that little detail to me when I was doing this. So I had a lot of hunting of going out and, getting people, but I was not registering all this data to keep record of it. Same thing from the standpoint of POTA. When you upload to POTA, it's in POTA, but I have to still take that same data and upload the data to a different source. A lot of you have been here around are very aware of that. So hunters, once again, I can be an activation. Activation can only happen when you're in a park. And, in some cases, if the park, as long as you're within 50 feet, there can be parks that cross, like a trail runs through a park. If you cross that park, be within 50 feet of that, you can get 2 parks. There's sometimes parks where there's 3 inside, so you can get a 3. We call it a 3-fer, I guess you'd call it. And then the other one I can do is I can do a park to park, which means I'm now being a hunter. So it's always interesting to get parks in different parts of the country or the world, so that you can say that you're actually doing the hunting, but doing a park across the thing. Now these, as I talked a little earlier, those are part of the awards that you also can run into. So that's part of when you talk about getting awards, that's one of the many awards you can get. So I'm going to go through here in a few steps is give you what I call my jump kits. This is the one I call the perfect weather. Remember I said earlier, I'm not a fair weather guy. I don't care what the weather is doing, but when it's this way, this is the setup I'm going to use when I go to a park. Even, you know, either the one I've been to or one I've never been to. I always like to step through, and it depends on the environment. I have a picture, I'm giving you all the different pieces that I use here, but I've got a view of, here's all the components that make this up. So you see at the top, what I did there is I just took a fish holder and took the clamp that you see and put the two together so that I can tie that Explorer pole. So that'll give me, that's only, was it about 20 feet, I think is all that gives you. So it gives me 20 feet up from a standpoint. So if I want to do a wire. So on the left side, you're going to see what's a pack tenna. So there's two pieces to that. I can, you know, it's going to be an end fed. So it's going to be, it works very well at 20 meters, and then I add the extension, I can do 40 meters. And once again, it's a very long piece. The challenge always is when I put this up, you got to always make sure that people aren't going to trip over it when you're doing it from that standpoint. On the other side, you see another wire. That's a Rubikoff that I built. It's just a 4-to-1 on that I wound and put together, that it goes up, and I can put that up to the top of the pole. And that gives me, the difference here is that this one requires a tuner. Because it's a random wire, I'm going to have a tuner. And so when I have the ICOM 705, you'll see to the right of that is a box that is going to be the impedance matching unit that I use in order to get my SWR down to below 2, is when I use my Rubikoff type setup. You'll see above the radio that I have, you know, just a Bioenno is what I use. Yes, the ICOM does have a battery in it, and the battery is the same one that I have with my ICOM handheld. So I can, if I don't need the Bioenno, and if I know I'm not going to be broadcasting more than an hour, I could, between the two batteries, should be able to take and broadcast at least for that long. And I do, and as I bring cable for there, you see I have an orange, big orange. I want to make sure that when you put things out, and in some cases, there's certain parks I go to that doesn't matter what color it is, they're still going to run over it with their bikes. Doesn't matter if it's even, you put things around it, people will still run over it. And in some cases, I have a signal stick I bring just if I want to take, if I don't want to play with the tuner and I just want to take and tune something up manually, that's what the signal stick is for when I do that. Now on the bottom, I have a Wolf River coil setup. And what this is the Sporty 40. So the 17-foot whip, if I put that up, that's a 1/4 meter. So I can go and put that up at 20 meters and shouldn't have to do any tuning at all once again. But what I do is I take that coil on the bottom, which gives me 40. When I put the two together, and then you see it in between there, I have a jumper cable. So I put a jumper between the wires so it skips the coil, so I can do 20 and then pull my jumper cable off, and now I can do 40. So that way I don't have to unscrew and screw things together when I want to put it together. Now, Wolf River coils, they also make a loaded coil that you can take and adjust and, you know, set that appropriately, put marks. That's the other. But if I'm typically, what I do is I try to focus really on 20 and 40 are the two bands I usually go after when I go into a park. Any questions on this setup? Like I say, this is my fair weather one. Weather's always really nice. Can be windy, but won't hurt anything. Yes.
What do you use for logging?
Well, I got logins further on, but yeah, from a standpoint of logging, I use the hammers either for the laptop or for my mobile device. That's my one of choice. So this one's what I call working from in the vehicle, because sometimes, as I stated earlier, when I went to when you go to some of these nature centers, there is no picnic table, there is no place to set up, so you're in your vehicle. So it's similar setup, but the difference I do here is I have a hitch receiver, since I always make sure I have a car, both my wife's car and mine both have a receiver, 2-inch receiver. Then I have a piece I can slide in. It's a flagpole receiver is really what it comes down to. And then I bring what's called the DX Commander. So that gives me the 10-meter ability to go up. So then from a standpoint, it's somewhat similar kit that I carried, but the difference is that receiver, as you can see, it's a tiny little thing to carry around, but you're in a car, so you're not going to worry about it. But everything else I talked about a moment ago is pretty much the same from a standpoint that, and the reason you see my little Explorer there is because you always have to have a backup. And this invariably happens that I don't always leave everything in my truck if I'm at my daughter's house. And I went to the park and I always have one bag that has everything in it, including the little pole, but DX Commander pole doesn't quite fit in my little bag. So when I go to a park, well, I don't have it, but I still have another pole. I'll still activate and still not have to drive back and go get parts. Now you notice a lot of cases I only have one cable, but I do always have at least two cables, two coax cables. I do have a kit of all kinds of little components and pieces that I always bring just in case. Questions on this particular one? Once again, this is the one I do. It actually did this one this weekend and used my Rubikoff on the right there. So my next one is, I'll call my wet weather one. So everyone here has probably used some type of a loaded coil antenna that I use the Hustler ones because they have a little component that's a little triangle that I can put three together. So I put three and I tune them all together on there one at a time, which is loads of fun when you're taking things up and down because you got to tweak it a little at a time. But once again, I'm tuning it down so I don't need an antenna tuner. So I can just plug a radio in and it's going to be tuned for the 20, 30, or 40. Or I also have a 10 and a 15 to take and do it each way. So this particular kit's going to be a little smaller, but I do bring this particular piece as part of when I go to, whether it's nice weather or whatever, it's just part of what I overall bring. Now I've got a bracket I'm showing on the left side that my new truck doesn't use that anymore. So I have to come up with a new mount as to how I'm going to do this mounting. So in the meantime, everything I do is now using the receiver. But from a standpoint, you can see this is a real easy setup because if it's raining out, you want to be able to just go in. And I had this on a quick release. So you literally stick it in, twist it, and then plus, I can assemble the pieces inside the car and stick them on and put it up and pull the coax and boom, I'm up and running really quickly to go out and do my activation. And you thought I was done, didn't you? So I have a winter one. This one's always a good one from a standpoint. Once again, it's very easy to set up. So now I'm changing radios, as you see. I'm using the 891. And this, you'll get what's called the ATOS. Now, from experience of people that I know that, one of my nephews, Elmer's, is really big on this particular antenna. He's had 3 in the past 5 years, but he never takes it down. And the reason he's had 3 is because he leaves it up in, winter weather and salt is not going to be kind to something that's going to be has a lot of mobility inside with what you're doing. So what's nice with this is that is the auto tuner. It's a loaded coil that you take and drive this particular unit from a standpoint. Now, the difference in this one, when I come to the next slide here, is that you'll see I have a battery box here. So this one, I'm bringing a hefty battery because if I'm going to go to 100 watt, I'm not going to be running this in everything I've shown so far. I'm not plugging into the car when I do this. Everything is being run off of batteries to try and reduce in case there's going to be any noise that may fall into the environment. And I do have for my FD81, I do have, the additional tuner that comes with it, but I typically don't bring that at all. Once again, I just focus with using the ATOS from that setup, or this same setup works with the previous one that I had where I have my Hustlers. I could use the same setup in order to do the same thing. Same thing that this sets up really quickly, being able to plug it and play and be up and, broadcasting within minutes. Okay, the last two I talk about are whether I'm traveling for personal or for business. So these are 2 different completely kits. Now, from this standpoint, this is the one I typically do whenever I travel. There's been a lot of learning experiences going through when you're traveling because I can tell you some airports are real lax when it comes to when you run your stuff through the system, and other ones, not so much. So what I've learned is when you do cables, all cables, if I'm going to, do a carry-on with any cables, I put them in a clear plastic bag, throw those in the bin first, and they don't care about the radios and the batteries when they're in my in my carry-on from that standpoint. Now, if the wires are inside, they will pull out and they'll pull out every single unit. They'll look in every single, every container I have and ask me what everything is. Now, the only thing they ask, I always say I'm bringing my crapper pole, and they don't, some people know what that means, or I just say it's a fishing pole. It doesn't look like a fishing pole, but it's close. But that's, one of the things you see, what I've run across. Now, this particular kit, you can see I use a lot of things from Gable. The reason I use this Gable is if you want to come up after, I'll go through as to the components, is that it comes down, I can do it in very small footprint. And the ability, what I learned, this is part of this kit was much modified from traveling with family stuff, is that if it's raining in Florida, you know, it rains, that I couldn't do activations. I was limited because of pouring rain. I didn't have the right stuff to be able to go, you know, work outside. And same thing you run into. Some parks don't have a pavilion. They may have a picnic table, but it's not covered. So how are you going to go do that? Because you can't bring all of your nice wet gear and work everything outside. But from a standpoint, what I ended up doing was getting this, you know, just bringing a mag mount that has this, is two pieces to it that has an additional mag that I put on the top of the car, and it lets me do broadcast from the particular setup that I'm using. So it works pretty well. Once again, as I said earlier, it's going to be a compromise. I don't get as far as I would if I was doing stuff that was, you know, much, you know, if I was using more of an end fed and things like that. But you can see I've changed things down. I'm using a thinner cable. I bring the RG316, so that's lighter cables to carry around. And because this is, you know, the radio that I'm bringing does have a tuner in there, but I still have to adjust the radio because this antenna is a loaded coil as well. And I can show you a little bit about that. So I bring the little nano VNA in order to take and give me about where it's at, and then use the Yaesu there to be able to come, not the Yaesu, the Xiegu to come in there and adjust the final tuning for me to get it into that point. And like I say, I have two different types of tripod. I have a real small one that I can actually put on the picnic table or put it on the ground. And I have another one that's a little bit bigger. But the idea is that those things, you know, the antenna pieces I can put in check luggage if I'm not going to be checking everything on the bag from that perspective. And this is what this overall kit looks like when I have everything together. Now, the last one is 100% digital. I don't have CW yet, so I'll change the radio once I get my, you know, so you can do CW. So this is 100% an FT8 only kit. And when I travel, I typically don't have a lot of time. So this particular QRP Labs, the 5-band that I have, it works really well from a standpoint. I bought a little tiny tuner, the ATU-10, and then bring this little talent cell. And I can work within an hour and be able to do the same thing. Just come in and do a bunch of quick contacts. Because like I say, when I'm traveling for work, I don't always have a lot of time to just go out and spend hours out to do setups. I, you know, practice this a bunch of times and then come through to do that. Now, something I didn't point out as I was going through all these is that you do notice in each one of these, I do have a UPS GPS. And that's if there's no radio signal, I always want to make sure that I have. You need something to have the current time. That's something, if you're going to do digital, you do have to have an accurate time. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to have communications from that perspective. And this is what this kit looks like. I know it looks big, but it really isn't all that many. When you think of the pieces, it's actually quite small at the end of the day, the number of pieces that are there. So those are all my lovely kits. Any questions on some of that before I talk about some of my misadventures of some of these that I've done over the years? Yes. That's 10,000. 10,000, yep. Not amps, I'm 10,000 milliamp. The talent cell one I'm talking about? Yeah, it's on Amazon. I can give you the link to that. You'll see there's a couple different a couple different ones of those. There's a 9-volt one. This one is strictly the 12-volt one. It does have a separate charger. It works very well. Any other questions? I do have solar, but I've typically, because I don't have any camping stuff, I sold all that years ago. And if I get back into camping, I do have a solar and I do have a solar controller that I can't do that. I don't show that here, but yeah, I do have all that capability. Yes. No, that's something I mentioned earlier. So you notice I always have batteries. I do everything from batteries. I do have emergency backup. I do have a 12-volt plug, a plug to USB or I should say power pole. And I have used that, but when I used it, and it did happen, I was going to talk about some of my challenges that I've had, is that I had one where I thought I charged all my batteries in my one radio that I have. Let me step down here. This particular radio has two different batteries. It has a removable battery, and this will last about an hour. I thought I charged both of them, and when I went out, it didn't. And it so happened that the car I rented did have, I had a 30-watt power plug in the back. So I was able to plug, I had to work out of the trunk of the car, but I was still able to broadcast without having to wait for everything to charge back up. But that's the only reason I would use it if the car was not running from that standpoint. But no, everything I've done, I have not. The only thing I have is, but I don't do it for quotas, I do have 2 meter, 7 meter in my truck. That's what I'm but good question from the standpoint. I tried it. I did have a lot of noise, and that's why I decided just to go with that. Okay, so I'm talking about some of the challenges that were out there. And this is, I'm just showing you here is, I brought most of this here, you know, except the top bag, is I wanted to show this is everything I have that sometimes I throw in to my vehicle when I go when I travel in Michigan in my car. So this is a lot of the gear I would bring. What I don't have, like I said, would be the solar, one of those things I completely forgot about bringing. But, or picturing note. But some of the challenges I've had is this winter, remember I told you I'm not fair weather, you run into challenges. I talked about the one I was, you know, down in Florida the one time, I was not able to get out every day. This year when I went down, I got to go out every day, whether it poured rain or not. And I mean, it did have some good rain. I still went out and still did activations. I still got some good, you know, good connections over doing that. This winter, I did have a challenge with the ATOS. It wasn't the ATOS itself, it's when I screwed it in. The actual dielectric inside, because that morning, I think it was just 10 or it was like 5 below zero at Mayberry. So when I twisted it, it broke inside and it couldn't figure out why it wouldn't adjust and pulled it apart. Sure enough, it was broken. Didn't have a spare component. Ended up having to come, you know, had no activation that day. Had to come home because I didn't have that. It's all the same thing. Didn't bring a spare antenna that I normally would have had. And that's where I had that Hustler setup that wasn't in my normal bag. So one of those things you gotta try. You know, as Senator told me, keep a good checklist. I have a checklist, but you know what? I never look at it. So it's a thought there, but it's just remembering to do it. You know. So that, you know, that was, you know, those are the two of the biggest challenges I think I've seen from a standpoint of, you know, just you're forgetting something. The other one I mentioned is I forgot to bring I brought the DX Commander with me, but left it in the garage and all I have is my little one, but you know, you may do with what you have. And then also I've done where I've set up and pulled up and put up the end fed and not had any luck. It's for some reason, it just didn't want to make a connection. So then I tried a different antenna, which is the Rubikoff that I have. Same thing. I was not having any luck with wires that day. And I had my Rofer recoil. I put that up and was able to do, you know, get to my activation. So that was a 3 try to get through it. Now I talked a little bit earlier about awards, and there's one that I did want to try and do because my nephew challenged me to it. So of course I had to do it, and it was doing a Pfeiffer. So what a Pfeiffer is that you're going to activate 5 parks in a day. You can do, there's also a 10-fer as well, but 5 I felt was still going to be possible. So I did managed to take and hit 5 parks right along Lake Erie, because there are literally 5, including the national park, which is the Custer Museum down there. So I was able to hit 5 parks in one day, starting and going through state parks, game land, and then 2 national parks as part of that. So that was kind of exciting to go do that kind of thing. Now, like I said earlier, I don't have all 50 states, and I still haven't even hunted. I'm still lacking 3 hunted states that I have not contacted with. Now, the catch, remember I talked about earlier about people putting logs in. I haven't hit a park in Alaska yet. I did have an exchange with one there, but either he never uploaded his logs and I never ever got, you know, proof that I actually did Alaska. Believe it or not, I got Hawaii from Mayberry. So I do have Hawaii in there. I don't have Washington, D.C. And I think I'm missing, there's one other state I'm missing. I can't think off the top of my head. So I'm down to 3. And my nephew doesn't let me live it down. You got to get all 50 states. So getting there. So the question earlier, these are, you know, typical things that I'm going to use from a standpoint. Obviously, when I'm doing FT8, the 2 pieces I always have is WJSTX and Grid Tracker. If I have internet, obviously Grid Tracker works because that gives me my reverse beacon, so then I know I am getting out. You know, without that particular component, I'm not going to know if I'm getting, you know, people, you know, getting back out if I'm even broadcasting. And part of it is, if I do see it receive back, I can look at what signal's coming in and look where that signal's at to see if I've got a problem with my overall broadcast that's going on. And of course, our favorite backup, paper and pen, which I always make sure That's always on the checklist. So. Any other questions? Yes.
When you say you work these parks, is it just state parks and national parks, or are you doing it like city parks?
Unfortunately, it's only state and national parks and game areas. But there's still a lot. I mean, I wish, because I go to Kensington me and my wife, every bird watch every Sunday, and that's not a park. I can go across the street, but there's more activity in the Kensington than there is. There's talk of them adding county parks, but that would really, I think would make it very confusing. Yes, you'd add a lot.
He traveled to Italy about a month ago. Activated a park in Italy as well. Met up with a local photo guy in Italy and activated a park.
Yeah, my next step is to cross the border when things cool off around here. I'll go back and go over to Leamington. There's some plans. There's like, I could do a 5-er over there too, because there's 2 down in Windsor and there's 3 more right along there. So Amherstburg and then over to Leamington. Yep, Point P, that's where I was gonna go, yes. My wife wants to go birding, I can go activation. Any other questions? Yes. That's on my list. Bikes made me very, yeah, that's one I haven't done yet either, but yes. Right.
That was nice.
Yeah, everything I've referenced looking into it is, you're right, you're gonna have to have 2 HTs, even if you have the 2.
2730 will work.
The what?
2730 will work.
Oh, will?
Yeah.
Well, I have a 2730, I guess I can do that.
Have to adjust the Doppler by hand, but it'll do it. You can listen.
Okay, good, yes. Typically, yes. But the thing is, I've never run out of other than the one time I went out. When I travel, I don't bring the Bioennos, I just bring the built-in one. And that's the only time I've had a battery problem. I've never typically run out of battery power at this point. You saw the big one, it's the 20 amp hour one that I have that I use for the 891, so. Yes.
Is there a process for activating the park? I've heard you have to make a certain number of contacts before you're actually activated. Is that true?
Yeah, that's correct. You have to do 10 minimum.
Okay, so every Sunday morning you have to make 10 contacts before you activated the park?
That is correct. You have to do 10. You know, we're
The bugger to get that.
yeah, sometimes it can be, you start at 40 and you work your way down or up, however you want to call it, but yes. Yes.
I don't know, I'm not hearing too well. Did someone tell you about there's a state park down Monroe? KG8HZ goes down there and he activates that park on Poland.
Yeah, there's okay, yeah. There's Custer that's that's a national park yeah, that's right. You just sit in the parking lot. There's no place, there's no table. So you have to sit. That's one that I call my lazy activator. Got to sit in the car and do it. So. Yeah. Yep. Good question. Anything else? Yes, John.
Can you go back to the photo of the digital station?
I brought it if you want to look at it.
So you got a coil that maybe you want 80, is that right?
That coil there, yes.
Okay, so which coil?
Oh. You see
Is
that?
it in that photo or?
Yeah, it's right. I actually bought it. It's right here. Here you go. Actually, there's another piece. I can show you. There's another piece. It's this long.
Yeah.
That's the load code. This only takes me up to.
Yeah.
But I do have additional one I screw on in case we need.
And what's the length of that width?
About 6 feet. See. I won't be able to put it all the way.
Yeah, right.
Did you ever operate 80 or 160 or
In the morning, typically, I hit 80, but I haven't gotten anything. I did one morning from Mayberry, go down and do 6, and you'll never guess who responded to me, Zach. Which made me laugh. So as soon as I saw the call, I said, oh, I know who that is. Anything else? No, thanks. Like I said, I brought everything to give you an idea. What I also brought is what I call I'll show this real quick. So exit, is that, fly fishermen have all their kits. If I took a fly fishing kit, this is my 891 with an 8-toss in here. It's not in here as a battery, but I mean, to give you an idea of how I, make things portable enough, just, put everything in one.
Unshared.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right, great presentation. So I know there's several of us that do it. If anybody's interested in POTA, Tom said he's there Sunday mornings super duper early. I am generally at Mayberry over by Hickory, either by Hickory or over by the main bathrooms, because that's very important, having a bathroom while you're out there.
You don't like the pit is what you're
Oh, the pit is over by Hickory, but I'm either at Hickory or by the main bathrooms every Monday and Thursday evening, like 4:30 to 5:30 timeframe. If anybody wants to come out and just sit through one or do a dual activation with me, second operator or whatever, my email is good on QRZ. So just shoot me an email and say, hey, next Thursday, are you going out? And I'd be happy to run anyone through it. It's like Tom, like that's really what's got me going on the air a lot. I don't sit at home a lot and operate my radios. I'm out in the truck. A lot of times I'm the lazy guy in the truck, but I'm on the bed of the truck. This weekend. Actually, I went, no, it was last Thursday when it was really nice. I just randomly decided to go to Island Lake, because that's also a very nice park. And I pull into the parking lot and somebody comes and taps on my window and Zach was there. And he was walking with the baby, but he's like, are you here for POTA? I'm like, I absolutely am. So that's another good place. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you wanna do some POTA. Anyway, thank you. Awesome. All right, so we will move on to old business. Secretary's report, as always, is available upon request if anyone would like to request it. Treasurer's report. Guess you can just hold it up to you, since we don't have.
Started at the end of last meeting, $14,582. Took in $94 in membership, one new one and three renewals. Our expenses were $112. So our ending balance was $14,564. And we haven't spent any of the money for the big items that we had talked about, and it was approved as a budget. Any questions?
Awesome, thank you. All right, Hero, I think you're online, or you were. Yep, there he goes.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for showing up to the meeting, and here with Peter. All right. Well, just quick statistics. My internet connection is unstable, it says. Okay. All right. Anyways, nothing much to show here, but we're still getting the very consistent showing. So thank you very much for that. Once again, a proper check-in procedure is instituted by YYZ is please follow the instruction that we have on the preamble by net controls every net. Proper check-in is your call sign, first name, and the location, and please give that slowly. And you can tell, which net control is quick or not. So you can adjust for that. This is not a contest. Please give enough ample time for the net control to check you guys in. And also, we use a net logger. Net logger is a really good program if you like to check into the net or just for the heck of it. So this is the net logger. You can see like food checked in and food is already checked out, checked in and out, and food is next one, which is a purple one. So if you're kind of multitasking, it's really helpful. We have keys number 2, KDA ZSK keys is running, still running. There was a Wayne County repeater crawl on our 2-meter repeaters, so please use that. The schedule is on the website, as you can show on the screen. NetLogger, if you have not used a NetLogger and you want to try, which I encourage you strongly, there's a little presentation on our website, so you can start doing that. And if you got any questions, let me know also. That's about it. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Hero. All right, so Michigan QSO party. We had an okay turnout. I say that because I would have loved to seen more people there. I was there for a few hours. I should have stayed a bit longer myself, but it'd be good to see more and more people get out to it. We did pretty well. 670 total contacts for a total claim score of 141,708. It was 294 CW contacts and 376 SSB phone contacts. So well done as usual. Love to see more people there. John,
What?
Log in the Park.
What?
YYZ.
Yeah.
Crack your whip.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, yep, yep.
Let's see. Once again, thank you to Tom for doing the presentation tonight. For May, we are going to be talking about field day prep. Field day this year is, help me out,
Oh my God.
20,
It's in my calendar.
23rd. It's early. It's earlier than normal because
June, right?
usually the June meeting is after field day, but this year it's
June.
before.
27th.
Okay.
I've got June 27th
Oh, that's right. And
for setup and then
yes, yes,
28
yes,
and
yes.
29.
so we're actually going to be talking about field day prep in May. The June general meeting will be Mr. Dan KPLW talking about repeaters in general. We actually had a little conversation just before the meeting tonight. He's going to be talking about repeaters in general and then doing sort of a deep dive on our repeater, the KUNS system, and also the D-Star. For Lark in the Park, we are thank the Lord, and
You're in the right place.
I'm in
for
the
it.
right place for that. We are going back outside. So the May Lark in the Park is going to be, I believe it's the 10th.
The 10th, yeah.
Correct. And we will be talking about HF propagation prediction and reporting tools. Should be very interesting. And then in June, because that will be
The 14th.
the 14th, 2 weeks before field day, we will be doing a combination of things. We'll be doing field day prep, but we're also going to have like a new ham day. New hams. We're kind of working on what we're going to do, but my plan is to kind of have like a kind of like an open house. So we'll have everything that you could possibly do in ham radio there. You want to get on HF, we'll have HF stations. You want to get on 2 meters, we'll have 2 meters. Hopefully Mike is available to do some satellite stuff. We'll do some digital, CW, kind of a general overview of anything you can do in ham radio, primarily aimed at new people to get your feet wet, ask questions, get a little experience. And that'll take us to the summer break. Of course, Lark in the Park does continue through the summer. I'm working on some things for July, August. What's the month after August?
think in-
September and October, and then November we go back inside. So
I think we've got a activation.
we
POTA
do. There will be a
activation in one
POTA
of those.
activation. I'm not sure which month, probably July, maybe August. I'm not sure. But yeah, we've got some really exciting things coming up. So stay tuned. Watch the website as always and the newsletter information on on general meetings and Lark in the Park will always be in the newsletter and on the website.
Awesome. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes,
Yes, yes.
that
you
is
don't have
correct.
to be on a
Yes, you
special
don't even
list.
have to be a member
Just come on.
to join us at BN Park. You got it.
All right. Peter, do you have any updates or you're good? Nothing updates? Okay, awesome. Oh, we got a question?
Statement.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are checking out, the report I post on the, website every day, the, sunspot number and solar flux index report. Today's sunspot number was only 2 digits. It's either 86 or 68. I can't remember which. But the solar flux index was hanging in there at 156. That's the important number. Anything over 150 is good propagation. And then when it gets up in the 200s, 300s, even, you'll be lucky to talk to your neighbor next door via radio. You probably key the mic and get answered by somebody in Russia or something like that. But when the solar flux index number also goes up high, you also bear the possibility of having geomagnetic storms, and they are sometimes a negative. So it's it's not a positive thing. I mean, it can be positive and negative all at the same time. And then again, not at all.
Sounds like what we need to study at our next Lark in the Park. So awesome. All right. Does anybody have any other additional old business? We were supposed to vote on stuff, but we don't have the people again, and Cliff's not here, so we're not voting. Any other old business? Going once, going twice? No. Okay, we'll go to new business. New members and upgrades. One new member, Scott Wilson.
Sure, and change the call sign to 88 PA.
All right, congratulations on the extra. Woo! All right. Really, the only new business we have is to we were going to discuss the field day permit. That has been the 2025 field day permit has been expertly sent in by Bill, and it should be voted on May 7th. Is that correct? And let's hope that we don't have any issues with that, but I can't imagine we would. And do you have to go and argue it, or do they?
In the past, I have.
Okay.
Last year, they didn't have a quorum. So the Parks and Rec director said, I believe they're valid. It's approved."
Check. Perfect.
Executive order.
There you go. All right. I like it.
I'm hoping that's what'll happen this year.
Yeah, cool. Well, we haven't been troublemakers yet, so awesome. All right. I know Cliff did this last time, and I'm not a sports guy, but aren't the Tennessee Volunteers, are they orange? They're bright orange, okay. Well, he's always talking about needing volunteers, and I wonder if it's because he wears orange all the time and it's just subconsciously he thinks of that, but he wanted to speak again of call for volunteers. I think Zach is going to be tweaking some stuff. If not, he's not here, so we're going to decide that he is. Tweaking some stuff on the website to help us better solicit volunteers. What we've got coming up is we've got a swap committee that we're going to need. We've got some more field day planning we need some more volunteers for. We've got Edmund Fitzgerald activity coming up. So there's plenty of opportunity to volunteer. And so he just wanted me to mention that. Other than that, do we have anything for corkboard or Elmery activities, helping hands, anything like that?
Just a quick bit for new business.
Oh,
Jim Harvey, WBA-NBS, former board member, he donated for our historian there a couple years of past issues of the Lark Log and a old Lark shirt
oh,
that I'm leaving with Chuck Leroy.
oh, nice. Okay, perfect. I think Zach had, or Cliff had asked for some of that stuff, so that's great. Some history. I like it. All right, any corkboard? Yes. Oh yeah, hey, we can throw that out there. I'll be there Friday. Okay. Last year, I'm gonna throw him under the bus, but maybe not. John had organized a little bit of a texting thing. I'm not saying he's going to, but maybe one of us will, and we'll throw it out there either via email or something. And just so that we know, because I would hate to get there and on Friday and 7 of you are there and I don't know it, and we could meet by the fountain I don't know. You meet by something and have a hot dog. I don't know. I haven't been yet. So yeah, maybe we'll throw something out there for that, some sort of group text or whatever we want to do.
I'll do it.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, you don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot, but he's gonna want something after the meeting for this, huh? All right, no, but that's good. That's a good thing. Are you going? Okay. All right, if there's nothing for sale and no helping hands, upcoming meetings we've discussed. May 12th is the next board meeting. Keep an eye on our award-winning website for upcoming club activities. And don't forget the 19th is the meeting. We've said it. We're gonna say it again. It's gonna be in the newsletter. It's gonna be in everything. The 19th is the meeting. If you show up here on, which holiday is it? Memorial Day? Memorial Day? Maybe something will be going on. I don't know, but it won't be this. All right. If no one has anything else, I'm gonna close it at 7:58 p.m. All right. Have a gavel.
Yeah.